Shivasadi Bhaktavinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our wonderful Guru Parampara. Thank you all for joining in His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's daily call. Today we have the good fortune that Her Grace Gopika Radhika Devi Dasi is going to be speaking to us on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, verses 9 to 12. So who is this charming young lady who is going to regale us with the pastimes of Srimad Bhagavatam? Gopika Radhika is born to devotee parents and I'm sorry. At the age of 15, she moved to Sri Mayapur Dham along with her parents. She is initiated by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, and she has completed Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, and Bhakti Vedanta degree from the Mayapur Institute. Over the past decade, she has also served in the areas of curriculum development, student assessments, Shastric research, and secretarial support in various ISKCON bodies and initiatives, including Mayapur Institute, the GBC SPT research team, which is the strategic planning team, Guru Services Committee, which is the subcommittee for curriculum development, the TOVP exhibits, ISKCON Constitutional Committee, etc. So we have a very accomplished scholar and a Pandit with us today. So we are very blessed, Mataji, to have you. Just as Shukadev Goswami, only 16 years old, was elected the leader of the assembly because he was so learned, we welcome you into our midst and offer you our most humble obeisances. Hari Bol. All yours from now on, Gopika Radhika Mataji.
I'm so sorry, I was muted. Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji. And thank you so much to His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj. And thank you so much to all of you for having me here and making me feel so much at home. Since the first day that I joined here, I've just been feeling that it's totally my family. So thank you so much for that, for all your kindness. So yeah, do I share the screen or?
Yes, as you desired, you are free to share the screen.
Okay.
If you want me to do that, let me know.
Okay, it still says here host disabled screen sharing.
Oh, so then I have to enable you?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Oh, I don't know how to do that. So let me just go ahead and share the screen. That will just make it easy for everyone. It's 9 to 12, right?
Yes, Mataji, yeah. But yeah. But like once I start the class, I was thinking if because some of the references, etc., I had prepared on slides. So if I could,
but I really don't know how to do that. I'm not so familiar with how to make you the host.
Yeah, either making me the host or just enabling me to share the screen.
How do I do that? Do you know how to do that?
No, actually, I also don't know. I've just had people do this many times.
You can start a collaboration, or you can start a collaboration with somebody else.
Hare Krishna, Sri Devi Mataji.
Yeah.
If you click on Gopika Radhika's name, you should be able to say make co-host or make host. Make co-host.
Okay.
If you right click
on that and say make co-host. Great. Thank you. We need tech support. Prabhu, this is fantastic.
Now, now I'm able to do it. Right. Yeah, now I'm able to do it. Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
9 to 10. Just a moment. Just getting ready. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So Srimad Bhagavatam was Canto 1, Chapter 10, verses 9 to 10. They are together, and then we'll read through 11 and 12, which are also clubbed together. So, Subhadra Draupadi Kunti Virata Tanaya Tatha Gandhari Dhritarashtrascha Yuyutsur Gautamo Yamau Vrikodarascha Dhaumyascha Striyo Matsya Sutadayah Na Sehire Vimuhyanto Viraham Sharangadhanvanaha. So translation, at that time Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti, Uttara, Gandhari, Dhritarashtra, Yuyutsu, Kripacharya, Nakul, Sahadev, Bhimasen, Dhaumya, and Satyavati all nearly fainted because it was impossible for them to bear separation from Lord Krishna. Purport: Lord Sri Krishna is so attractive for the living beings, especially for the devotees, that it is impossible for them to tolerate separation. The conditioned soul, under the spell of illusory energy, forgets the Lord, otherwise he cannot. The feeling of such separation cannot be described, but it can simply be imagined by devotees only. After his separation from Vrindavan and the innocent rural cowherd boys, girls, ladies, and others, they all felt shock throughout their lives. And the separation of Radharani, the most beloved cowherd girl, is beyond expression. Once they met at Kurukshetra during the solar eclipse, and the feeling which was expressed by them is heartrending. There is, of course, a difference in the qualities of the transcendental devotees of the Lord, but none of them who have ever contacted the Lord by direct communion or otherwise can leave him for a moment. That is the attitude of the pure devotee. And the next couple of verses. Satsangan mukta dosango hatum notsahate buddha kirtyamanam yasho yasya sakrida karnya rochanam tasmin yasta dhiyah partha saheran viharam katham darshana sparsha sallapa shayanasana bhojanaiha. Translation. The intelligent who have understood the Supreme Lord in association with pure devotees and have become freed from bad materialistic association can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they have heard them only once. How then could the Pandavas tolerate his separation? For they had been intimately associated with his person, seeing him face to face, touching him, conversing with him, and sleeping, sitting, and dining with him. Purport. The living being's constitutional position is one of serving a superior. He is obliged to serve by force of the dictates of the illusory material energy in different phases of sense gratification. And in serving the senses, he is never tired. Even though he may be tired, the illusory energy perpetually forces him to do so without being satisfied. There is no end to such sense gratificatory business, and the conditioned soul becomes entangled in such servitude without hope of release. The release is only effected by association with pure devotees. By such association, one is gradually promoted to his transcendental consciousness. Thus, he can know that his eternal position is to render service unto the Lord and not to the perverted senses in the capacity of lust, anger, desire to lord it over, etc. Material society, friendship, and love are all different phases of lust. Home, country, family, society, wealth, and all sorts of corollaries are all causes of bondage in the material world, where the threefold miseries of life are concomitant factors. By associating with pure devotees and by hearing them submissively, attachment for material enjoyment becomes slackened, and attraction for hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord becomes prominent. Once they will go on progressively without stoppage, like fire and gunpowder. It is said that Hari, the personality of Godhead, is so transcendently attractive that even those who are self-satisfied by self-realization and are factually liberated from all material bondage also become devotees of the Lord. Under the circumstances, it is easily understood what must have been the position of the Pandavas, who were constant companions of the Lord. They could not even think of separation from Sri Krishna, since the attraction was more intense for them because of continuous personal contact. His remembrance by his form, quality, name, fame, pastimes, etc. is also attractive for the pure devotee, so much so that he forgets all forms, quality, name, fame, and activities of the mundane world. And due to his mature association with pure devotees, he is not out of contact with the Lord for a moment. Om Gyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshitarane Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nitya Nanda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so I'll exit this screen and I'll see if I can start sharing my slides. I've prepared, yeah. So these were, I just attempted to encapsulate all the points mentioned in these 4 verses and the 2 purports, Srila Prabhupada, into these 8 points, just to summarize what we are learning here today. So the first point is that feelings of separation experienced by pure devotees are indescribably intense. Prabhupada says we can only imagine, it cannot really be expressed or articulated or described adequately. Then one who has understood Krishna in the association of devotees cannot give up hearing Krishna's glories, even if he or she has only heard those glories once. So how then could the Pandavas tolerate separation from him, considering that they were the Lord's intimate associates and had such intimate contact with him? Then, in fact, it is impossible for any living entity, Prabhupada says, to tolerate separation from Krishna. It is only under the illusory energy that conditioned souls become oblivious to Krishna. It's only because we are dulled, our senses, our memory is dulled by the impact of the illusory energy, that we are able to remain forgetful of Krishna and go on with our lives. Otherwise, it's impossible for any living entity to tolerate separation from Krishna. Then Prabhupada, makes this point: the Jiva's constitutional position is to serve a superior. When we don't serve Krishna, we are forced by the illusory energy to serve our senses ceaselessly. Then Prabhupada mentions how material home, family, society, wealth, etc. are causes of bondage and always accompanied by the threefold miseries. The only hope, Prabhupada says, is hearing from pure devotees, which slackens material attachment and progressively increases attraction for Krishna, as Prabhupada says, without stoppage, like fire and gunpowder. Then towards the end, Prabhupada makes this point that because Krishna is absolute, separation from him is as good as personal contact, because separation invokes intense remembrance of his name, fame, qualities, and pastimes. And these name, fame, qualities, and pastimes are not different from Krishna himself. And in this way, Prabhupada concludes, the pure devotee is never out of contact with Krishna, even for a moment. So I was thinking of discussing these points in a framework which we generally use in the Mayapur Institute, which is the VTE aims for Shastric study, the Vaishnava training and education aims of Shastric study. So there are 12 aims, and some of the most commonly used ones are just knowledge and understanding. Then there's preaching application, Shastra Chakshusha, personal application, Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission. There are others, but these are the ones which we commonly use. So I just find this like a useful framework to study any verse, because it enables us to view a single verse from different angles of vision and see what we can get out of it and how it is relevant and applicable in different areas. So in terms of knowledge and understanding, if you just look at the background once. So as we can see, this is actually Krishna's 4th attempt to leave Hastinapur and depart for Dwarka. The first time he did, then Uttara approached him Uttara approached him to seek his rescue from the Brahmastra that was sent by Ashwatthama. That is 1st Canto, 8th chapter, verses 8 to 10. And Krishna saves Uttara and Parikshit Maharaj from the Brahmastra. Then Krishna is about to leave, and Kunti Devi approaches him and begins to offer her prayers, her beautiful prayers, 1:8:17 to 43. Then Krishna starts to leave again, and Maharaj Yudhishthira approaches him and stops him because he's so aggrieved and burdened with guilt from due to all the killing that has happened in the Kurukshetra war, and all the ladies that have been widowed, everyone who has been rendered helpless and orphaned and without any protector due to the war. And he's feeling as if he has been the cause of that. So he needs solace and instructions. And so then Krishna arranges for him to receive those instructions from Bhishma Dev. And then Bhishma Dev passes away in the presence of Krishna. That's 1st Canto, chapter 9. And then now finally in chapter 10, Krishna is again leaving for Dwarka. This time he succeeds. So verses 1 to 6 in this chapter, we find a description of Yudhishthira Maharaj's kingdom, just how abundant and opulent and prosperous the kingdom was, because he was ruling in accordance with the instructions given to him by Lord Krishna and Bhishma Dev. Then verses 7 to 19, we see Krishna getting ready to depart. Our section of verses is from this section. And then 20 to 30 is talks of the ladies of Hastinapur. And verses 31 to 36 is the Lord proceeding to Dwarka. So this is just like a helicopter view of this whole section that we are dealing with. And the other point that comes out very strongly over here is Prabhupada's description and the verse's description of Krishna's all-attractive nature and the intensity of devotees' feelings of separation from him. As Prabhupada mentions that even one who has heard from him once finds it impossible to give up hearing and chanting about him. And we see that, for example, in the example of Shukdev Goswami himself, who is the very reciter of the Bhagavatam that we are studying, how he heard about Krishna's glories just once, and that was all that it took to transform him from a Brahmavadi, a completely detached transcendentalist, to someone who became a completely pure devotee of Krishna and attached to hearing his glories. And then there's another verse that came to my mind in this regard, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.19 translation, where it says, "My dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like all others, fruitive workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again." And so this is another really vivid example of how this is talking about someone who actually falls down. It's not even a perfected soul. It's someone who is struggling, who maybe even falls down. But even such a person, because he has once relished the taste, he just cannot help but remember that ecstasy again and again, and that brings the devotee back to Krishna's lotus feet. So then what to speak of, like the verses say, what to speak of the Pandavas who had such intimate association with Krishna. And we see examples of this intimate association, for example, when Arjun is addressing Krishna's Virat Rupa, he says, "Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you, O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories, please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends." So this gives us a glimpse of the kind of intimacy and kind of association that the Pandavas shared with Krishna. And another example we find is over here when Narad Muni is speaking to Maharaj Yudhishthir. He says, my dear Maharaj Yudhishthir, all of you, the Pandavas, are extremely fortunate, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna lives in your palace just like a human being. Great saintly persons know this very well, and therefore they constantly visit this house. And then in the next verse, he goes on to say that Krishna, he is the origin of the transcendental bliss sought by great saintly persons. Yet he, the Supreme Person, is your most dear friend and constant well-wisher, and is intimately related to you as the son of your maternal uncle. Indeed, he is always like your body and soul. He is worshipable, yet he acts as your servant and sometimes as your spiritual master. And so that was the level of intimacy that the Pandavas had with Krishna. And therefore, as Prabhupada says, the feeling of such separation just cannot be described, but it can simply be imagined by devotees only. And of course, we see other examples also. Srimad Bhagavatam and our Chaitanya Charitamrita, both these are replete with examples and descriptions of devotees and their intensity of feelings of separation that they feel for Krishna. When Krishna leaves the planet, here we have Arjun speaking to Maharaj Yudhishthir. He says, "O king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me. I have just lost him whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void, like bodies without life." Some other examples of devotees expressing their feelings of separation. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, this is the gopis speaking to Krishna. "O greatest of personalities, this is from the Gopi Gita actually. "O greatest of personalities, you have repeatedly saved us from all kinds of danger, from poisoned water, from the terrible man-eater Agha, from the great rains, from the wind demon, from the fiery thunderbolt of Indra, from the bull demon, and from the son of Mayadanav." And in the purport, it's mentioned based on the Acharya's commentaries that here the implication is that, "Oh Krishna, you have saved us from so many terrible dangers. So now that we are dying of separation from you, won't you save us again?" And this is when Krishna is leaving for Mathura, being taken by Akrura. Translation, "O Providence, though you come here with the name Akrura, you are indeed cruel, for like a fool, you are taking away what you once gave us, those eyes, with which we have seen, even in one feature of Lord Madhudvish's form, the perfection of your entire creation. And the purport it is elaborated, the gopis did not care to see anything but Krishna. Therefore, if Krishna left Vrindavan, their eyes would have no function. Thus, Krishna's departure was blinding these poor girls, and in their distress, they berated Akrura, whose name means not cruel, as cruel indeed. So basically, that was all that their eyes were meant for. If Krishna wasn't there, then they felt there was no use. It's as good as being blind. Like Prabhupada would say, right, that true silence means to always just speak about Krishna. So that's what these devotees are naturally at the level of. If we don't have Krishna to speak about, then what's the use of speech? We don't speak. If there's no Krishna to look at, then what's the use of the eyes? It's as good as being blind. And this is Krishna's queen speaking in the 90th chapter of 10th canto, the last chapter of 10th canto. O revered cloud, you're indeed very dear to the chief of the Yadavas, who bears the mark of Srivatsa. Like us, you're bound to him by love and are meditating upon him. Your heart is distraught with great eagerness, as our hearts are, and as you remember him again and again, you shed a torrent of tears. Association with Krishna brings such misery. So these are just some examples, of course, and we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is full of examples of descriptions of Mahaprabhu's feelings of separation for Krishna and the devotees' feelings of separation for Mahaprabhu when he takes sannyas, when he just leaves from one place to another. All the people he would meet on his way, they would just become so intensely attached to him. He would go from one place to another and people would faint and he would move on. In the meantime, when they would faint, he would move on. And that was how he was able to proceed when he was on his pilgrimage from one place to another. Otherwise, no one would want him to go and no one would let him go. So these are some points that I thought to bring out in the knowledge and understanding part. And in terms of Shastra Chakshusha, this is where we see how something from our Shastra helps us to transform or helps us form our outlook and helps us to view the world through the eyes of the Shastra. And so it reminded me of this phrase, which of course is quoted from George Harrison in the introduction, the preface to Krishna book, where it says, everybody is looking for Krishna. Some don't realize that they are, but they are. And that very aptly brings out this portion that Prabhupada was mentioning here, that Krishna is so attractive, especially for the devotees, that it is impossible for them to tolerate separation. The conditioned soul under the spell of illusory energy forgets the Lord, otherwise he cannot. And so this is what we can see. It enables us basically to truly understand the source of people's angst or frustration or sadness or hankering or longing, whatever whenever we see anyone manifesting these feelings, it is actually a perverted reflection of the soul's actual longing for Krishna. Because because we are under the illusory energy, we just don't realize that actually this is the source, this is what we are looking for, but we don't realize that and we think it is this deficit or that deficit. So in that way, it also enables us to truly empathize actually with people, because we know what is the root cause of their suffering and how it brings a sense of commonality. We are all on the same platform. We are all souls who are struggling because we have forgotten our relationship with Krishna. So that brings a sense of empathy, that this soul is also just like me, just like I'm struggling because of my forgetfulness of Krishna, so is this soul. And it enables us to try to help people in a genuine, in a true way, in a substantial way, which is not just superficial. Of course, material help is also needed as and when required, but also it helps us to get to the root of the problem and help people in a genuinely substantial way, which is by helping them reconnect with Krishna to whatever degree we are able to help them do that. And another interesting point that I found here is actually this thing about the true meaning of being a servant and conqueror, which I found from this texts 11 and 12, basically, where Prabhupada mentions that how the illusory energy perpetually forces the conditioned soul to serve his senses, and there is no end to such sense gratificatory business, and the conditioned soul becomes entangled in such servitude without hope for release. which is like such a it's such a drastically different view from what the material conception is, because in our material world, the more one is able to serve his senses and the more one is able to gratify the senses, the more one is regarded as the boss, the conqueror. But actually the Vedic worldview is completely the opposite. That is the Godas, the one who is just constantly engaged in sense gratification and serving the senses. There is this recognition that that is actually servitude. And to be a conqueror, to be a boss, is to conquer the demands, to be able to conquer the demands of the senses, which is the Goswami. So that's like such a completely contrasting view, the spiritual worldview versus the material worldview. And like we find Prahlad Maharaj speaking to Lord Nrsimhadev in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9. He says, "My dear Lord, O infallible one, my position is like that of a person who has many wives, all trying to attract him in their own way. For example, the tongue is attracted to palatable dishes, the genitals to sex with an attractive woman, and the sense of touch to contact with soft things. The belly, although filled, still wants to eat more, and the ear, not attempting to hear about you, is generally attracted to cinema songs. The sense of smell is attracted to yet another side. The restless eyes are attracted to scenes of sense gratification, and the active senses are attracted elsewhere. In this way, I'm certainly embarrassed." So it's like, yeah, one person and being pulled in all different directions by all his different competing senses. So actually, the Vedic worldview helps us recognize that actually this is a pathetic position to be in. This is not a desirable position to be in, which is considered to be the most desirable position in the material world, to be able to gratify our senses more and more. But here, at least, even if we are not able to attain this level instantly, of course, we will not be able to, and as long as we have these material bodies, we will need to gratify our senses to keep our bodies healthy, to keep our minds healthy. But at the same time, there is recognition of this fact that there's something much beyond that, and this is actually servitude. It is not a desirable goal. What we are aspiring for is to transcend this and serve Krishna. And even if we gratify our senses and we look after our bodies and our minds, it is with that attitude and purpose that we are doing it in order to keep ourselves fit and healthy and happy to serve Krishna, which is being the real conqueror. And similarly, it's Prahlad Maharaj again speaking to his father, Hiranyakashipu. He says, Srimad Bhagavatam 7, 8, 10, that in former times there were many fools like you who did not conquer the 6 enemies that steal away the wealth of the body. These fools were very proud, thinking I've conquered all enemies in all the 10 directions. But if a person is victorious over the 6 enemies and is equipoised toward all living entities, for him there are no enemies. Enemies are merely imagined by one in ignorance. So again, the same point, one thinks one is a conqueror, but actually one is already conquered by 6 enemies, which are constantly with us, our 5 senses and the mind. These are the 6 enemies, and they're always with us and stealing away, as Prahlad Maharaj says, the wealth of the body. So these were some points that I thought to bring out in terms of Shastra Chakshusha, things that we can take from this verse that can help guide our worldview, basically, and help us see things around us through the eyes of the Shastra. And then moving on to preaching application. So, well, the most obvious one is food for the soul, as Candramauli Maharaj was mentioning the other day, that when I asked Maharaj about what are some of the most effective ways that we can introduce Krishna consciousness to new people and help them understand that this is in their best interest. And Maharaj said one thing that we can say is that this is going to bring us true peace and happiness. And he was saying, like, this is no mean feat, because there's hardly, we won't find anyone in this material world who is experiencing genuine peace and happiness. So actually, this is the greatest thing that anyone can get. So as Prabhupada, of course, he often mentions that analogy of polishing the bird's cage versus looking after the bird. And so, yes, literally everything in our vast empire of the world, all the arrangements that are being made, it's all geared towards polishing the cage, the body, and to some extent the mind. But what the soul is hankering for, there is very little recognition, first of all, of our identity as the soul, and then what the needs of the soul are. So this is a really effective thing that we can use to make Krishna consciousness sound appealing to people, that yes, it is the key to true peace and happiness, which is genuinely the case, because this is the only thing which satisfies the craving need of the soul. And also, I mean, the concepts of self-love and self-care, they are very popular, especially nowadays. Everyone talks about self-love. And I mean, of course, again, it's not about denying the need of taking care of ourselves at a physical and a mental and an emotional level. It's not about denying that, but it's also about recognizing that besides that, our true need, our true self is the soul, and therefore true self-love is giving the soul what it needs, which is contact with Krishna through hearing and chanting and worshiping and remembering all these 9 forms of devotional service. That is true self-love and true self-care. That's like, we can almost take it as a quota of every day, that how much have I, that this is my time allotted for self-love. This is my time allotted for self-care when I'm chanting my rounds, when I'm reading Shastra. This is what I need to do to look after myself. Because this is, and that is why Bhagavatam calls the person who does not do it as Atmahat, the person who is committing suicide. Because yes, although the Atma is eternal and it cannot be killed, but the Bhagavatam still uses such a strong metaphor of suicide to one who does not hear and chant about Krishna. Because when we don't hear and chant about Krishna, we are literally divesting the Atma, our eternal Atma, of its true nature of Satchidananda. So although the Atma is eternal and it cannot be killed, it is as good as killing the Atma, because the Atma is Satchidananda and it is not getting to manifest any of those potentials because of being away from Krishna. So yeah, this is the best form of self-love and self-care. And most importantly, it is open for experimentation. It is not a matter of blind faith, as we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, this famous verse, Bhakte Parishanubhavo Viraktir Anyatra Chaisha Trika Eka Kalaha Prapadyamanasya Yathashnatah Syustushte Pushte Kshudapayo Nughasam. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These 3 occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. So the results are self-evident. I mean, all one has to do is to try. It's nothing, I mean, nothing is theoretical, nothing is just a matter of belief. Anyone can try it, just like any scientific experiment, try it, and one is bound to see the result. And there's a really nice quote of Prabhupada where he's quoting this verse, Prabhupada, that you will understand, just like if you eat, you will understand that you're eating. Nobody has to convince you, you will be convinced. Mr. Malhotra, the test of the pudding is by eating, not by simply telling. Prabhupada, when you eat, you haven't got to ask somebody else, do you think I'm happy? You'll feel yourself. Bhakte Parishanubhavo Viraktir Anyatra Syat. Conversation with Life Member, December 22nd, 1976. So that is one of the most powerful methods, and that's like something that is tried and tested over and over trillions of times, and it's something which anyone can experience at their home, in the temple, in a devotee gathering, anywhere. Just join a kirtan, just taste prasadam, just sit for a session of philosophy from the Gita and the Bhagavatam, and one can experience it for themselves, the happiness and the peace and the genuine relish that comes from that. So yeah, it's open for experimentation. And yeah, there's another verse from the Bhagavatam where it brings out the same point. Savai punsam paro dharmo yato bhaktiradhokshaje ahitokya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self, yayatma suprasidati. And Prabhupada elaborates that in a lecture. He says, So yayatma suprasidati. Su means very much. Not only prasidati, but suprasidati, very much. Everyone. The body becomes satisfied, the mind becomes satisfied, the soul becomes satisfied, and the Supreme Paramatma, he also becomes satisfied. So it's like the most holistic and the most in-depth solution to our suffering and to gaining happiness, instead of a band-aid just blowing over a boiled solution. And then, yeah. In terms of personal application, well, it just provides a very strong motivation. These verses provide a very strong motivation to hear and chant in the association of pure devotees. Prabhupada mentions that again and again, how the only hope is associating with pure devotees and hearing them submissively, and how devotional service is the most pleasurable and powerful process, that which cannot be accomplished by any other spiritual process, yoga or dhyana or karma. It's achieved in one go by devotional service. So, and there's the Prabhupada mentions in this purport over here that that attraction for hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord becomes prominent when we hear about the Lord from pure devotees. And once they will go on progressively without stoppage, like fire in gunpowder. And so, yeah, we find this whole progression explained very nicely in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verses 17 to 22. As I've brought a few verses here from that section. Very famous verses. Shramatam Swakatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, Hridyantasto Bhadrani Vidhunoti Surit Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So this is the first verse in that section. Krishna himself cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee. And then Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Then tadarajastamo bhavaha kamalobhadayaschaye cheta etairana vidham sthitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. Again, we see the same word here, prasidati, yayatma suprasidati. These things which cause us agony are removed and the devotee is established in goodness and becomes happy. And evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. So, evam prasanna manaso, man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service. Prasanna means happiness. And here we see Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam, again going back to that point, that it is positive scientific knowledge. It's actually experienced by a person. It's not theoretical. So this section of verses, they are very effectively describes this progression that Prabhupada mentions in our section of verses today. And yeah, this quote from Prabhupada, the word smritya is very important in spiritual life. Smritya means remembering Krishna always. Life should be molded in such a way that one cannot remain alone without thinking of Krishna. We should live in Krishna so that while eating, sleeping, walking, and working, we remain only in Krishna. Our Krishna Consciousness Society recommends that we arrange our living so that we can remember Krishna. In our ISKCON society, the devotees, while engaged in making spiritual sky incense, are also hearing about the glories of Krishna or his devotees. So yeah, again, the same thing, arrange our life in such a way that we remember Krishna. And that is what provides food for the soul, and that will make us happy all the time. And so then this also brings the point, because Prabhupada here, he writes that material society, friendship, and love are all different phases of lust. Home, country, family, society, wealth, and all sorts of corollaries are all causes of bondage in the material world, where the threefold miseries of life are concomitant factors. So then this also raises the point that, does it mean we give all these things up? Because we see that these are all causes of bondage, they are sources of the threefold miseries, and only hearing and chanting about Krishna, they release us from these miseries. So perhaps we give up all these things altogether, all at once. And so I just thought to mention what Prabhupada says in this regard in Canto 8. It's about basically dealing with our conditioned nature appropriately. And this is a very famous verse and purport, actually. This is from Gajendra's pastime, where Prabhupada elucidates on what it actually means to practice Krishna consciousness in a way that recognizes our material conditioning, takes that into account, and progresses in Krishna consciousness from that platform of being realistic and honest about our current level of adhikar. And so this is Prabhupada's purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 8:230. Prabhupada says, in the fighting between the elephant and the crocodile, the difference was that although the elephant was extremely powerful, he was in a foreign place in the water. During 1,000 years of fighting, he could not get any food. And under the circumstances, his bodily strength diminished. And because his bodily strength diminished, his mind also became weak and his senses less powerful. The crocodile, however, being an animal of the water, had no difficulties. He was getting food and was therefore getting mental strength and sensual encouragement. Thus, while the elephant became reduced in strength, the crocodile became more and more powerful. And now from this, we may take the lesson that in our fight with Maya, we should not be in a position in which our strength, enthusiasm, and senses will be unable to fight vigorously. Our Krishna consciousness movement has actually declared war against the illusory energy, in which all the living entities are rotting in a false understanding of civilization. The soldiers in this Krishna consciousness movement must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. To keep themselves fit, they must therefore place themselves in a normal condition of life. And what constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone, and therefore there are divisions of Varnashram, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanprastha, and Sannyas. So this provides such a brilliant understanding of the balance that we need to strike in order to practice Krishna consciousness in a sustainable way over the course of an entire lifetime, possibly spanning many decades, which is that we introspect and recognize our conditioning, our material conditioning, our current level, our current adhikar, what our needs are, and then proceed with our practice of Krishna consciousness from that platform of honesty and reality, honesty with ourselves and with our Guru and Krishna. And for that, we place ourselves in the condition, and as Prabhupada says, that what is normal will not be the same for everyone. So that's something we need to introspect and seek guidance from our seniors, from our Guru, and decide what is normal for us and place ourselves in that normal condition in a dharmic way and practice Krishna consciousness from that level, proceeding incrementally, so that we are able to sustain that practice of Krishna consciousness over a lifetime, rather than, like the analogy is often used, like a shooting star. We take premature leaps, too much too soon, and then it fizzles out relatively quickly. There is no loss, of course, there is no loss. Krishna says, like neha bhikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhyat. Even if one practices devotional service to a very minuscule degree, even that gives us eternal benefit. that is always stored in our spiritual account. So there's no loss, but it is all the better if we practice Krishna consciousness in a sustainable way, keeping ourselves in a condition that is conducive to our material conditioning in terms of our physical well-being, our mental well-being, our emotional well-being, and making incremental progress in our hearing, chanting, remembering, and serving Krishna. And then just to conclude with Prabhupada's mood and mission. So one thing, of course, which is evident in basically all of Prabhupada's purpose is his uncompromising mood, calling a spade a spade. This is basically a characteristic of everything that Prabhupada would write and speak always. The way he clearly describes he doesn't beat about the bush, describing the condition of the soul who is serving his senses, even though he may be tired. The illusory energy perpetually forces him to do so, and how he's in this entanglement and this forced servitude, as Prabhupada says, without hope for release. And at the same time, also Prabhupada's uncompromising way in which he describes the power of devotional service, how once one gains that attraction for Krishna and hearing about Krishna, it goes on progressively without stoppage, like fire in gunpowder. So yeah, Prabhupada's uncompromising mood is very evident in these purports, as always. And also, I thought, because these verses are about dealing with separation, so to bring out this point that Prabhupada always mentions about service and separation, because Prabhupada ends our current section of verses by saying that Krishna's, they could not even think of separation from, Krishna's remembrance by his form, quality, name, fame, pastimes, etc. is also attractive for the pure devotee, so much so that he forgets all forms, quality, name, fame, and activities of the mundane world. And due to his mature association with pure devotees, he is not out of contact with the Lord for a moment. So actually, it's interesting. These 4 verses, they bring us full circle. It starts with talking about separation from Krishna and devotees' intense feelings of separation. But then it brings us full circle to that point that actually a pure devotee is never out of contact with Krishna. He's always associating with Krishna. And that is the thing which Prabhupada used to mention, always service and separation, and how association with Guru and Krishna, it transcends the limitations of time and space. And these are some really beautiful quotes of Prabhupada, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antilila, concluding words. Prabhupada writes, although according to material vision, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, passed away from this material world on the last day of December 1936, I still consider His Divine Grace to be always present with me, by His Vani, His words. There are 2 ways of association, by Vani and by Vapu. Vani means words, and Vapu means physical presence. Physical presence is sometimes appreciable and sometimes not, but Vani continues to exist eternally. And therefore, we must take advantage of the Vani, not the physical presence. The Bhagavad Gita, for example, is the Vani of Lord Krishna. Although Krishna was personally present 5,000 years ago and is no longer physically present from the materialistic point of view, the Bhagavad Gita continues. And in fact, actually, Prabhupada makes this point that there may be people who are in constant association, physical association of the Guru or a senior devotee, etc. But if they are not able to correctly appreciate and make use of that opportunity, Prabhupada says this is just like the bug who is sitting on the lap of the king. He may be very puffed up by his position, but all he can succeed in doing is biting the king. So personal association is not so important as association through service. So at times it may even be that association through service is actually higher, it's superior to personal association. If we are not in a position or the level of qualification to truly appreciate and take advantage of the personal association, then actually association through service is it turns out to be even higher. And another, this is Prabhupada's letter, 1968, please be happy in separation. I'm separated from my Guru Maharaj since 1936, but I'm always with him, so long I work according to his direction. So we should all work together for satisfying Lord Krishna. And in that way, the feelings of separation will transform into transcendental bliss. So yes, it begins with a devotee's intense tears and feeling extremely sad that Krishna is leaving, the feelings of separation. But actually, as we are told in our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, that separation, those tears, are actually a source of transcendental bliss. And so this is how Prabhupada concludes the section of verses, that a devotee in actuality is never away from Krishna. He's always in contact with Krishna. And actually, those feelings of separation are a source of transcendental bliss. And to end with, I wanted to read this small paragraph from Prabhupada Leelamrita, which again very nicely brings out the same point that Prabhupada ends our today's section of verses with, that due to his remembrance of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes, and his mature association with pure devotees, one is not out of contact with the Lord for a moment. So this section of the Prabhupada Leelamrita, it's very nicely illustrates this. It says, seeing him, this is about Prabhupada, seeing him from a distance, a tiny figure walking Manhattan streets and avenues among many other tiny figures, a foreigner whose visa had almost run out, we come upon only the external appearance of Srila Prabhupada. These days of struggle were real enough and very difficult, but his transcendental consciousness was always predominant. He was not living in Manhattan consciousness, but was absorbed in dependence upon Krishna. Just as when on the Jaladuta, he had suffered his heart attacks, his reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita had supplied him the nectarine of life. He had already succeeded. Certainly, he wanted to provide Radha and Krishna a temple in New York, which had not happened until that time. But his success was that he was remembering Krishna, even in New York City, in the winter of 1965-66, whether the world recognized him or not. Not a day went by when he did not work on Krishna's book, Srimad Bhagavatam. And not a day went by when he did not offer food to Krishna and speak on Krishna's philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to him and he is never lost to me. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sa cha mena pranashyati. And Krishna assures his pure devotee that my devotee will never be vanquished. There was never any doubt about this for Prabhupada. So with this, I would like to conclude. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And over to Sri Devi Mataji.
Thank you, Gopika Radhika Mataji, for a very scholarly presentation with very powerful quotes that you have pulled from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, from morning conversations, from Srila Prabhupada's letter to make a very comprehensive and a highly analytical presentation from so many angles of vision. Certainly, you are Bhakti Vedanta. You are living up to your faith.
You're very kind, Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very, very powerful presentation. And I'm sure because of so many different viewpoints with which you have presented, our devotees have been given much food for thought, and many angles of vision with which you presented will obviously pose many questions. And we have Namrata waiting to ask one. Go ahead, Namrata ji.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to dear Guru Maharaj. Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. I think I would, very firstly, I would like to request, can you please send this presentation, to us, because I would like to repeat again. There are a lot of things which I might have to, read it again and reanalyze it, because it went a little, so because there are a lot of other questions. There are a lot of other questions which I cannot ask, just at one time. But the presentation was really wonderful. Thank you very much. So I have one question which I would like to write right now. So it was about the okay, let me ask. Mostly living with non-devotees around us, we tend to waste a lot of time and our energy under the three modes of material nature, which which we should ideally use in our spiritual progress. So, so how do we, avoid that kind of things?
Okay, I'll just say what comes to my mind right now. And of course, I invite other devotees here also to please share your thoughts regarding this. One thing that comes to mind is, as Prabhupada writes in his introduction to the Nectar of Instruction, that progress in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. So in one sense, it is not always, Krishna consciousness or practicing Krishna consciousness does not always mean necessarily that we are doing something directly related in terms of hearing or chanting or worshipping or etc. Sometimes it can also be that when we have the attitude that, okay, I'm living an ideal life, so I can set an example for the non-devotees. When they see me, they'll think that, okay, Krishna's devotees are leading such exemplary lives. Just my example itself can be an inspiration for other people to respect Krishna consciousness and to be attracted to follow Krishna consciousness themselves. So that can be one motivating factor for us. And in that way, we can feel that like literally everything we are doing is a service to Krishna, because in our hearts, that is what we are thinking, that whatever I'm doing, I want to be exemplary. I want to do it in a virtuous way. I want to do it in a compassionate way and set an example. This is what a Krishna devotee is like. So if our mentality is like that, then even though externally we may be doing things which just all the other non-devotees are also doing, there seems to be no difference in our activities. Just like Arjun, he was also fighting, the Kauravas were also fighting. The action was the same, but Arjun was doing it as a service to Krishna, and they were on the opposite side. So the external activity may be just the same as everyone else, but the attitude makes a difference. And many times, like, it's also like we need to do things for the upkeep of our body. We need to earn money, maintain our family, do things related to, and this all is also supporting our devotional service. We are trying to keep our material condition in a balanced way so that we can concentrate on our sadhana. So in that sense also, like Krishna says, right, yat karoshi yadashnasi yat jahoshi tadasi yat tapasyasi konteya tat kurusho madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away in charity, do that as an offering unto me. So we are doing all these so-called material activities, but with that aim that my real identity is Krishna's service, like Krishna's servant, and my real goal is to serve him. And whatever I'm doing it to support that and to set an example to others that they should also do this. So in that way, we can, from at our heart, we can, feel that we are serving Krishna, channelize this in this way. That's just, one suggestion.
Thank you. That really helps.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that nice question, Namrata. I'm sure a lot of us got benefit out of that one question, because many of us struggle with dealing with people who may not exactly think the same way we do, or what to practice Krishna consciousness at the level we are practicing. Thank you very much for that nice question. And thank you for a very detailed, very succinct, at the same time, very practical answer. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Is there something you would like to add as well to this?
No, it was perfect. What you said was just perfect. I don't want to take away from the perfection by saying something. Let's see if there are other people wanting to ask any questions. We have Revati Mataji. Please go ahead, Revati.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisance.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Danat Pranam.
Guru Maharaj, Danat Pranam. Thank you for this very, very nice class, beautiful class. I really like that the food for soul, which Krishna conscious is like a very genuine. It need to be experienced. Like it's not something theoretical. I really like that, as if we look back where we have started, we can see those genuineness, that experience in the heart, how our heart gets purified, by practicing this Krishna consciousness. I really like that, so many verses from material view and the spiritual view you have experienced, you have explained to us. I have one question, Mataji. Like here in this verse, you have mentioned, I think Srimad Bhagavatam 8.2.30, where like we placed in a normal condition. So what does it mean, Mataji? Could you please explain?
Yeah, in the purport, Prabhupada is basically because he mentions, I'll just read that thing again. Just 1 second.
Yeah, we must place themselves in a normal condition of life.
Life, yeah. And then, yeah, as Prabhupada goes on to say, what constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone, and therefore there are divisions of Varnashram, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanprastha, and Sannyas. So basically, what I understand is Prabhupada is talking about like the life situation in terms of both what we do and which is the Varna, and then what kind of life situation we have in terms of ashram. So for example, maybe I'm the kind of person who needs to be in family life. I cannot be a renunciant. I cannot be a brahmachari or a vanprastha or a sannyasi. So I need to be realistic and situate myself in family life. Maybe I'm someone who needs to have financial security. I'm not at that level where I can just depend on Krishna and be contented with whatever comes my way. I'm not at that level, maybe, so then I need to do what is required to cater to that need of financial stability. Maybe maybe I'm I'm an artistically inclined person, so I have a need to engage in artistic pursuits. So then I need to engage in that. I need to I can channelize it in Krishna service. I can, so in that way, but, or maybe I'm an academically inclined person, then I have a need to engage in academics. So in that way, like these are all material conditionings, the need to be in family life, or the need to have financial security, or the need to engage in one or the other activity. But but they are based on our material conditioning. It's not spiritual, but we need to recognize that and use that in a way, get it out of our system, basically, in a way that is dharmic and Krishna conscious, so that we can be peaceful and practice Krishna consciousness in a sustainable way. So that is basically, yeah, my understanding of what, because as Prabhupada says, he mentions all the 8 divisions, right? Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So that is about what kind of activity we have a proclivity to engage in. And then there's Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanprastha, Sannyas, what kind of life situation we have a need to be in. So in both of these ways, and these things then carry with them their own sets of rules in terms of the level of renunciation, the level of facility, the level of resources, the level of the finances, everything else that we are supposed to access or not access, or use or not use. So whatever our level is, we recognize that and live in that way, in a dharmic way, in a way that is not against the principles of Krishna consciousness, and then use that in Krishna service. It can be in a direct way or in an indirect way, as our situation allows. For example, maybe I can directly engage my talents in Krishna service. That's very good. Or maybe I am not in a situation to do that. I need to do something to earn my livelihood. Then maybe I can just be a good example to my co-workers. I can preach at my workplace. I can use the fruits of my work, a portion of the fruits of my work in Krishna service. Whatever my situation allows me to do, based on my need at the moment, I do that, recognizing that my ultimate goal is pure bhakti. My ultimate goal is to devote myself completely to Krishna. But right now I'm at this level, and so I start from a platform of honesty, from a platform of reality, and make incremental progress in Krishna consciousness from there. So that just keeps us stable and peaceful, and yeah, gives strength to our practice of Krishna consciousness. It's like there's this quote from Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. I'll just look that up. I really like it, about Just 1 second. Yeah, as Prabhupada says, a sincere sweeper in the street is far better than the charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. So yeah, that's like a really powerful quote where, I mean, Arjun himself, right? He wanted to leave his occupation as a Kshatriya, go off to the forest and meditate. And Krishna says, you won't be able to live for long in that way. You won't be able to sustain that because your nature is that of a Kshatriya. You need to fight, you need to rule. You have that nature. And you will not, even if you retire to the forest, you won't be able to live there for long. You need to live out your material nature, but in a way that is dharmic and in a way which serves Krishna. So yeah, that's why it's done.
Thank you,
Thank
Mata.
you.
Thank you so much for this very, very detailed answer. Thank you. Thank you for all the wonderful verses you shared. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Revati, for yet another beautiful question and a very nice answer from Gopika Radhika. It was so pleasing to everyone's heart. Any other questions, comments, realizations, any sharing, any thoughts? And I say that Gopika Radhika Mataji will be giving us class again tomorrow. So we'll pick up where we left off today. Tomorrow we'll be doing further verses, 13. Any other questions, comments? Okay. So it looks like everyone's heart is satisfied. Gopika Radhika, a very nice presentation. Thank you so much. Your scholar assimilation, understanding, as well as very scholarly exposition on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is so illuminating and enlivening for all of us. So I really thank you for the hard work and the determination and the dedication you have put in to acquire the Bhakti Vedanta degree. And we are so honored to have you on the call giving us this class. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you so much for all your kind words and encouragement. And yeah, making me feel so much at home here. Thank you so much for this and for this opportunity to be here and discuss this. Thank you so much.
Most welcome. And we hope to hear many, many more classes now that you're joined the team. We are hoping many more classes to come, at least once a week, at least, if possible, depending on your schedule. It would be so nice to have you here to explain to us the philosophy in such a masterful way. Very, very encouraging and very enlightening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj has come online. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. All glories to you, Guru Maharaj. Gopika Radhika has just given a very wonderful, very masterful, very scholarly presentation. And
I
we're
heard
all
the whole thing. I heard the whole thing.
Oh, you did,
Haribol.
Maharaj. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Maharaj.
it was brilliant. Thank you. So much support from Shastra. It was amazing. It was excellent.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Maharaj.
Yeah. We're driving and we just turned it on and we got lucky. We were able to hear your. So,
Thank you, Maharaj. It's all by your mercy. It's all by your mercy.
yeah. So please, if you are inclined to, please tomorrow also.
Yeah. It's scheduled for tomorrow as well.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Okay. I don't think I'll be able to catch you tomorrow, but at least today I got some.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
It was nice.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Yeah, it was excellent. So much Shastric support for everything you said. It was amazing.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for all your encouragement that you have always given me.
Thank you for taking the opportunity to serve the devotees there. I think they will benefit greatly.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Just
Hare Krishna.
The devotees, if you have a few minutes, I would like to talk a little bit about the Eco Village project. Just give me 1 second, please. So dear devotees, those of you who have been joining us for the Eco Village talks, we have been discussing about farm communities and how Guru Maharaj desire is that somehow or the other we move towards that lifestyle. So then I have been in touch with Dayal Mukunda Prabhu of the Nandigram project on the suggestion of Guru Maharaj to connect with him. And I presented to him our idea of what we want to do in the Eco Village. I have shared with him the 7 purposes of the Eco Village, and his response is as follows. He would like to know, he says, how many devotees are interested in this project? Let me share with you the question he sent back to me. He said, we may meet today or tomorrow and discuss as per your convenience. For a more specific outcome, I would like you to prepare yourself with, number 1, number of devotees who would like to join this Eco Village project, the area on the land which you would like to utilize for the purpose, the timeline of completion of payments, and number 4, your queries, if any. Hope that we may help you with your dream project, yours in the service of Srila Prabhupada and Candramauli Swami Gurudev. So he has placed before us very pertinent and very practical questions, asking to know how many of us are really serious about this project, how many of us want to invest on the land that he has and take it further, and if we are seriously going to invest, then what is the timeline of payments? So I wanted to first and foremost ask how many of us really would like to invest in this project or take it forward, and maybe know something about your thoughts on that. Namrata, I think in a conversation that I was just having with her, she was also saying that we need commitment. And I was thinking that, maybe we need to talk about it. So I'm open to hearing what you would like to say, any of you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so very shortly, I wasn't prepared, Mataji, for saying this, but just as I had talked to you, I would just like to say that we many times we are in the thoughts that we want to dedicate something. I mean, dedicate our service to our Guru Maharaj, but materially there are a lot of hurdles that we face, and we get caught up in that. Of course, this is part of 3 modes of material nature, but still we get a lot of catching up from that side, and then we lose on our commitments. So very firstly, I feel that we need to, somewhere within ourselves, we need to ask this question to ourselves, that how committed we want to be here. Because unless we ourselves cannot give a commitment, then it is very difficult to act on it externally. So like, if we talk about the God family we are in, we have a lot of grihastas. So it becomes very, I understand that completely. I understand that it becomes really difficult for the grihastas to give commitment. But somewhere I feel that we have to make either the middle way to work it out, or some dedicated way to work it out. But if we want to fulfill whatever Guru Maharaj is desiring, then we have to get committed. So the commitment is the very first factor which we have to think for ourselves. That is what I would like to say, Mataji.
You have said a very important thing. You're absolutely correct. That first and foremost, we must look within to see how committed we are to doing this project. And the level of involvement can vary. You can support it long distance simply by talking about it, by simply being a spokesperson, or simply committing to doing a web page about it, or handling, some part of the PR work, public relations work, or writing up a brochure. I mean, there are so many ways in which people can contribute. It doesn't mean everybody has to up and leave their country and move to Mayapur. It's not like that. There are many levels of involvement. There are many facets to this whole project. But as you said, there should be first that inward call to do this. I mean, that commitment that, yes, I want to give some amount of my energy to this project, or some amount of Lakshmi to this project, or some amount of my time to this project, something which tells you inside of yourself that I want to contribute. Unless that commitment comes and unless that desire is there then to offer something, how we can take this forward, because we need teamwork to carry it out. So you're absolutely correct when you say that each of us has to look within to see what level of commitment we have, if any, and then if so, what way we want to contribute. If anybody else has anything to say, please jump in.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Dhanut Pranam. So Mataji, I totally agree with Namrata Mataji, what she mentioned. Is like look within, understand like how much we can really commit to this project and how we can contribute. For that, we need to understand the whole picture. And so that when we understand the whole picture, we'll understand like, our commitment and also like, how we can really contribute to this project. So right now, I'm trying to understand. And also, as Mataji said, like I have to look deep within how much I can really commit. Yeah, so.
Okay. Thank you, Revati. Thank you for understanding it and putting it nicely, encapsulating everything we spoke so nicely. Thank you. Anybody else would like to say anything? We have about 6 minutes more before it's 7 o'clock in the evening here. So I would like to wrap it up by 7. Or if there's no other concluding remarks or no other contributions, we can also end the call. It's entirely up to you. If anybody wants to jump in and say something, now is the time. Okay. So, Scarlett is offering her obeisances and we offer obeisances right back. So thank you all very much, dear devotees. Please think over all that we have discussed and please let us know your desires. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So with this, I will end the call. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Guru Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Koti
Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tita Kirti. Hari Bol.
I will.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.